So Osasuna 4, Barcelona 2 is how it finishes. Barcelona dropping their first La Liga points of the season. And that, of course, has great significance as to what's happening tomorrow. Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid face off. A victory for the defending champions will close the gap to just 1 point at the top of the table. Luis Garcia joins us. We'll go to Luis in a moment. But, Craig, as you say, there was no doubt, no contention about this. The best team won.
Well, the expected goals said it all as well. Oh, sorry, Luis. The expected goals said it all, if you're into that kind of thing, but it told a story. I think it's, look, he can look at a lot of injuries, Hansi Flick, but he can also, it was his choice to leave out Martinez and Burley, experienced players at the back. It was his choice to leave out Lamine Yamal and Rafinha, two of the informed players in the Premier League. So those were his choices. But it's feet on the ground again sort of performance, isn't it? After every, we were talking about records before the game, and I think it's a little bit of a nonsense because I don't think they would have been talking about that in the dressing room, because that's getting carried away. It's not how you start the season; it's how you finish it. And as good as it has been to the start, all this 8 wins in a row, matching this team, matching that team. There's bigger fish to fry for this Barcelona side, and I think that is just a little, a lot of air taken out the balloon and saying, listen, maybe we just got a bit carried away, or maybe the media got a bit carried away. But there we have it. If we don't do the basics right, if we don't defend properly, if I don't get my team selection right, there are teams in La Liga that can beat us, particularly when they have to travel away. And so it's a blow for them after a great start. But I do think a little bit of a reality check in terms of where they actually are.
Obviously, because of the number of games, Hansi Flick is going to have to rotate. But obviously, with hindsight, Luis, away against an Osasuna side, we're unbeaten at home. We know they're so strong as well in their own stadium. Was not the time to do it.
No, probably not. Now, when the game has finished, of course, we will look back and say, yeah, it's not the one. I guess we don't have all the information, and Hansi Flick felt that it was the right opportunity. But again, I think it took a little bit of a gamble there. Move probably because of the result, the way the Barcelona is playing, the young players that have been involved in and out, surrounded by also some other experienced players. Felt that confidence, but today playing against Osasuna, a very good Osasuna, I think they didn't give their respect to that team. That playing at home is always a very difficult task to get something from. I think from the very start, we saw a Barcelona that was not managing the tempos of the game, not winning any kind of phase, no getting the challenges 50-50, not arriving at the pressure on time, and he's been exposed quite a few times. We saw Sergi Dominguez in the center of the pack a couple of times exposed because he was alone, there was no cover there, so he has to run back, and in the end, we saw once the first goal of Osasuna, and in the second time, in the second part, that penalty. A little bit late on the challenge. So I think that credit to Osasuna, once again, play a fantastic game, and they are there with 14 points. And Barcelona and Hansi Flick have to think about that when you want to do rotation, you have to, again, finally maybe give the support to the players and do it at home when they are surrounded by their own support.
Hansi Flick hasn't just walked off the street. This is a man who had great success with Bayern Munich. How can someone with so much experience make such a basic error?
Maybe he got carried away with all the victories. Maybe he began to believe what's been written in the papers and what people are saying. Because to put that team out, Torre, Eric Garcia in the engine room, and then Kubasi and Dominguez as your base to go from, I'm sorry, you're just asking too much. And as you said, a place like Osasuna, where you know it's going to be tough, yeah, I'm with Luis. You do those things at home. You don't do it away from home.
Are we not always talking about putting your best 11 out and then
taking them off?
Taking them off.
And it's only young boys. We're in the Champions. I know you lost the first game against Monaco, but still, you're a strong enough side. This Barca B side should be strong enough to beat young boys at Montjuic.
I think to Stevie, what Stevie was saying, I think he's seen strong performances early in the season from young Bernal, who's now injured, young Marc Casado, who was on the bench, who did start the season and played particularly well. And I think he's had a look at it and thought, well, these youngsters sort of help carry me through, so maybe I'll get the same sort of performances from one or two other youngsters. It's difficult to have so many in the team, and then you've got, as Stevie mentioned, Eric Garcia. It's not his fault. Christensen played that position. Eric Garcia's playing that position. They've got a lot of players out injured. And so I think managers, and I know we talked about it before, that you have to, you don't have to rotate, but it just seems to be something that happens more often now. But it just seems that managers are hell-bent on either being, cajoled into believing that injuries are going to happen and you need to protect this player and that player and blah, blah, blah. And I get it, there's a lot of games. But it just feels now that there's more emphasis on making sure somebody's fresh for a game 3 or 4 days away than actually getting the result that's in front of them. And sometimes that takes, the other one takes precedent, and then you have to throw the big boys on at the end, and they're still playing. Can't remember exactly how many minutes Rafinha, Lamine Yamal and others got, but you're still throwing them in there for half an hour or so. So it kind of defeats the purpose. It's been a great start.
Yeah.
Everybody's talked about them, but I think it's back to basics for them in terms of, I bet you the next time he plays, even if there's a bunch of games, when they play in the league next, even if they've got a game in 3 or 4 days, he's not going to do that same thing again.
Was Iñaki Peña to blame for anything that we saw today, Luis?
No, now Iñaki Peña is going to be under the microscope for everyone. Every single moment that is the ball near about him, everyone is going to be analysing how he could shoot or should have done different way. I think he made a couple of fantastic saves. I think during the goals, there was not much to do on 1v1. Yeah, you can win one, the other one can go. It's very difficult to analyse it. Today, he was very exposed. And let's don't forget that we talk about this situation last year when he was under Xavi, that kind of moments, you're right, in a very vulnerable defense. I think it's very difficult to analyze the goalkeeping today. So, yeah, I think that I will give a little bit of patience to Iñaki Peña.
It was 4 great goals, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think any of them. No.
The header, the ball and the header were just tremendous. The finish, Luis just talked about, was class.
Yeah.
There was a penalty. And then the strike at the end when Lamine Yamal gave it away, it was an excellent strike. Let's not forget, Barcelona at times played well last season, then they had this defensive crumble, right? The bedrock of what they did the season before when Xavi won the league was actually based more on defensive stability than exhilarating football. And what we saw today, and again, it's a caveat of youngsters and inexperienced players, but it was a manager's decision, is that Osasuna actually could have had 6 or 7. And that's a wake-up call for doing the basics. So for Barcelona to lose 4 goals in any game is pretty embarrassing for a club of their stature, playing one of the smaller teams. But it could have been a lot worse today if Osasuna played a final ball better, particularly in that second half when they were getting through with a high line with the ball over the top, time and time again.